Welcome to The Kitchen Table, a show dedicated to helping you escape diet culture, gain trust with food, honor your body, and live a brighter life. Hello and welcome back to The Kitchen Table. I'm so glad you're here. I'm your host, Alicia Brown, a non-diet registered dietitian nutritionist. And today I'm very excited. I have an Ayurvedic doctor here. His name is Victor. And what he's going to do is he's going to break down what Ayurveda and the Vedic Sciences are. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to have a deep and detailed discussion about parallels between Ayurveda and intuitive eating, because there are many. They really come back to this focus of intuition and how health and intuition can go hand in hand, but we must first strike balance and find balance in our lives. So, Dr. Victor, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Alicia, for having me.
Absolutely. So what are the Vedic sciences? Like, what is Ayurveda? Can you give us the 101 on this and maybe how you got into the career that you're in right now?
Yeah, Ayurveda 101. So Ayurveda is one of the Vedic sciences, as you said. The Vedic sciences are a collection of sciences that came out of ancient India and have survived through the ages because they have so much wisdom in them. So there is Ayurveda, there's Jyotish, which is a form of astrology that's used for both health purposes and just general purposes. There's Dana Veda, which is like a study of weapons, basically in war. And the list goes on. There are multiple Vedas, and there are all these specific sciences or studies on what to do in certain situations and aspects of life. So Ayurveda means the science of life. So how do we promote life? It's the healing art of the Vedas. And it's got tomes and tomes and tomes and tomes of wisdom and texts and herbs and formulas and what to do with this disease and what to do about that disease. And woven into those are axioms of how the body works and how the body works with the mind and the soul. Because in Ayurveda, there is no distinction between the three. Or they're spoken of as one being. There's not, it's not like you have this mind floating over here and this body over here, and sometimes they talk and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
They're integrated into a whole you, basically. So that's Ayurveda in a very, very, very small nutshell. The holistic healing science that tries to keep you in balance with your personal and unique constitution.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and that's key. Unique to you. So everyone has a constitution, meaning that no one approach will suit everyone.
But in Western societies today, Victor, we are swimming in a sea of diet culture. We are promoted constantly on social media, the media, Dr. Oz, we're all saying this is the one best, latest, greatest thing. Try keto, try intermittent fasting. And it seems like that's promoted to the masses, but you're saying that an individualized approach is really the answer.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been the answer for a really long time. And can I be blunt? Is that
for
okay?
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just be real. When you come out with a diet like keto diet, it probably has some truth in it, for sure. There are probably certain aspects of the keto diet or the Atkins diet or the whatever diet that have like a little morsel of truth. But then at the point where it says, okay, how many people can I get to sign up for this diet? Now I'm just trying to make money. And that's not the heart of healing. It's not going to work, is basically all I'm saying. Or it will only work for a select portion of the population. Then those people will write testimonials saying it's the best thing they've ever done. And then someone else buys it and hopes that it works. But the reality is most of the time it doesn't.
For 95% of diets, it said 95% of diets are proving non-sustainable. And for the 5% that are proving they can sustain a diet, they're really suffering mentally and emotionally, trying to hold on to the diet. And sometimes that diet backlash backfires. It's like we start craving the foods that we're restricting, or we're starting feeling really out of balance, right? With food and with our health, and really confused about nutrition overall. Like, how does Ayurveda and the healing principles of Ayurveda kind of help us maybe steer away from diet culture and get more to an individualized approach to health through food?
That is a fantastic question. There's actually a lot of things in that question. We could spend a whole show talking about that one question. Um, okay, first is that Ayurveda is all about what is the root cause of
Mm,
any pathology. So if I have a rash on my arm, Ayurveda says, great, yeah. We got to put something on that rash. We don't want you suffering from the rash. But while you're here, let's talk about what's causing that rash. And then if it's not going to drive you too crazy, let's cause about what's the cause of what's causing that rash. You get the idea. We want to go straight to the heart of it, right? Because it very rarely we do. We go to the doctor, it's like, I have a cough. Oh, here, take this pill. It's like, well, that doesn't heal. Why is there a cough to begin with? We need to know that, because that cough is a symptom signaling that there's an imbalance in the body. And if we don't address that imbalance, it's going to pop up either again as the same thing or as something completely different. And so there are tons of pathologies. Like, for example, let's say migraines and fatty liver. Two different diseases, right?
mhm,
No, oftentimes it's the same root cause, same disease, but manifesting in two different places in the body.
mm,
So, and that's on an individual basis. So, how did it happen for that person? The human being sitting right in front of me is what's important. And when it comes to diet, it's very rare. The reason diets don't work is when someone let's say, I want to lose weight for whatever reason. I want to lose weight. I need to lose 50 pounds because I want to look better, or I need to lose 50 pounds because my knees are just getting injured on the daily because I'm holding too much weight,
mhm,
whatever your reason.
mhm.
People think first thought in Western culture is, how many calories do I need to eat and how many of them do I need to burn? That is just completely missing the boat. There are so many more causes for why someone's holding excess weight in their body than the amount of caloric intake they have and protein, grams of protein they take in versus how many, steps they take that they could read on their Apple Watch or whatever. That's like 1/15 of the story of weight gain and weight loss.
Mhm.
And then here's the bigger question: why'd the weight come on in the first place? And that's when you get into the deep stuff. Well, I started putting on weight when I got divorced. I started putting on weight when I was 13. I had my first period. That's when I started putting on weight,
Exactly.
right? And I
Yeah.
can never take it off. I started putting on weight when my dad started criticizing me. I started going underweight when XYZ.
All of the same things. Absolutely.
Yeah. Or I started putting on weight when I was working 13 hours a day under extreme stress
Mhm.
and on and on, cortisol response and all that stuff. Right. So we got to get out of this idea that I could serve you a diet on a plate and it's going to work. It's not going to work. I can't stress that enough. It's just not going.
Especially when we don't know the deeper layers of somebody's life.
Exactly.
When I talk about care and really caring for an individual as a whole, you said like the mind, body, and soul are all one. Blanket recommendations of weight loss just are not helping, right? It's like the root cause of the weight actually makes the weight not the problem. And it's often that way. It's like the weight is often not the problem. The food is often not the problem. It's something deeper. You're shaking your head like in agreement. Yes.
Yeah, yes, couldn't agree more. And I wish we could get that message out there in the face of this other message, which is, drink celery juice
Yeah.
and you're going to be fine. It's just it's a shame that that's the direction it's taken, but it doesn't have to be that way. People can realize that it's like, wait a second, I need support. I need help, because what I've been doing has led me to the place I'm at. So I can't just keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
And that's what so many of us are doing. It's like following diet after diet after diet. We expect nutrition science to keep getting better. And so we keep being more trusting in it. Meanwhile, we're throwing our money, our time, our effort, and our energy into this kind of lost cause of weight loss without getting to the root cause of, of betterment for health. And so tell me more about like, what health and balance look like through the lens of Ayurveda instead? Like, how can we abandon this diet culture, cyclical dieting mentality way and find balance and health unique to us?
Sure. A huge question. So, okay, let's say someone comes into my clinic
Mm,
and sit down. It's the first time I'm ever meeting them. And let's say that they come in and they say, and this I've had cases like these, plenty of them. I need to lose weight. So one of the first things I do is I look and, so let's say it's a female, let's say she's 35 years old and comes in and she's 5'8". I'm just that I'm making up. And she weighs 150 pounds. Okay. So she comes in and she says, I want to lose weight. So I'll start asking questions. I'll say, okay, so what weight do you want to be? I want to be 125 pounds. Okay. And I say, okay. So now, of course, inside myself, I'm thinking, okay, well, there's a lot more at play here than just this. So I need to talk about that. We need to have a conversation about that. That's really important.
mhm.
Because there's no way that I'm just going to say, okay, don't eat these foods and don't eat dairy and don't eat wheat and take these herbs and you'll be fine. I'm never going to tell anyone that ever, right? Ever in my life.
Thank you.
So first of all, I got to look at what is her constitution. In Ayurveda, we call that the Prakruti. Prakruti means the natural form you are born with. And when you stay in balance with that form, you will be healthy.
Oh,
Right.
that is beautiful.
It's beautiful. And it's unique to each person. It's like a fingerprint. So she has a Prakruti, and some of your listeners might know about Ayurveda. That Prakruti is based on a unique recipe of what's called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Those are called the doshas in Ayurveda, and they, long story short, define our physiology. They're these forces in nature. And so you look at that proportion inside that person, and if that woman is dominantly kapha, kapha creates a naturally bigger bone structure,
Mm,
creates naturally denser tissue.
mm,
So if I identify her as more kapha in nature, then 5'8", 150 pounds is a healthy weight. If she were to go down to 125 pounds, she would get sick. Whereas someone else who's 5'8", who has more of a Vata Prakruti, Vata creates a slender frame with very lean muscle and very light bone structure, which, by the way, is a big deal because if you live in a Western culture, then that's an image of beauty or a standard of beauty,
right.
right? Or if you're a male, then it's more of a Pitta type body, which is really strong muscle tone, like athletic, all that stuff, right? But anyways, back to our client. I got to start talking to her about how actually I have to find some way to get her to believe that her weight is actually a healthy weight.
Mm,
Because I can't sit there and let her try and force her body to lose weight and get her down to an unhealthy weight for her constitution. So that's a big conversation. Why do you feel like you need to lose weight? Why do all this stuff on and on and on? So, and we go and go and go. That's where it's all at. Not before we decide, okay, if someone does need to truly lose weight, which there are plenty of people who really genuinely truly lose weight, okay, how are we going to go about that? Because we're going to create a diet that's customized to you.
mhm.
And
So,
that diet's going to change over time.
mm. Yeah, so there's some similarities and also some differences here with intuitive eating. I think like the biggest similarity is recognizing that like we have this set point where due to our genetics, we are predisposed. We're giving these bodies that we're born with. And we show up in the world that's predetermined by these genetics. I think that's so beautiful. And for this person that comes into your office and you determine that, this is the constitution of her body is appropriate and weight loss would be inappropriate. That seems like for in intuitive eating, somebody who's reached their set point weight. Now that set point weight might not be diet culture standard of thinness, It might
Right.
not be equal to that ideal body type that everyone's trying to strive for. We're trying to fit our circles into square holes, right? Like, no, we can't do that. We're pounding our heads against the wall and not getting anywhere with that. But the difference maybe in intuitive eating is this customized diet piece, where we rather rely on intuition to navigate what, when, and how much to eat. But I'm aware that Ayurveda has a different approach to that because sometimes we're imbalanced. So, can you speak more on that kind of imbalance in the body that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics because Ayurveda basically has a really sweet and succinct definition of the intuition.
Mm,
It says that the intuition is the voice of your soul. So that's very distinct from the voice of your feelings at any given moment. But often it's difficult to discern between the two.
mm,
How do I know if what I'm feeling is my intuition, or how do I know if it's really my feelings that are just leading me astray? So let's take this is another good example that I see a lot. Someone who's maybe underweight comes in and says, okay, you know, I say, okay, I would like you. We both agree that it's time to put on a few pounds. That would be healthy for you.
mm,
Yeah, we agree. Okay, so now we got to talk about doing that. Oh, okay. Well, my intuition tells me I should eat a bunch of raw salad every day. I just feel so good when I eat a bunch of raw salad.
mm,
Okay, so it's like, well, wait, no, we got to talk about that because actually, I would say, or Ayurveda would say, that that's not your intuition. That's a feeling.
mhm,
And you have that craving or feeling because it's expressing an imbalance. Because eating salad every day is actually going to reduce weight on the whole. For that's tricky even there, right? Because for someone else, it could actually increase weight. Why? Because you're not digesting it. That's the point.
mm,
So the strength of that digestion comes into play. So that person who's coming in and who is experiencing ill health has to be very careful about what they assign to their intuitive voice versus what they just are feeling like.
mhm,
That's why it really helps to have someone neutral, not a family member, outside your construct that's a professional that you trust to be like, well, actually, trust me on this one. That's not intuitive eating. That's feeling eating. That's craving based eating. Even though I know you can hold up an article that says eating a salad every day has all these nutrients and it's good for you. But I could also hold up an article, which I've actually read, this is real. Drinking 6 cups of coffee is healthy for you a day. Can you believe that? I've read that article. Okay. That sounds to me like someone's trying to sell coffee, not caring about your health.
yeah,
Yeah. So
well,
there's a really important thing there. And I would say intuition comes more into play when it comes to choosing your healer or your practitioner than it does in choosing specific foods.
mm, well said. And also, like, it's so never helpful to have like a friend or family member like be navigating your food experience, right? Like, you can't have a family member telling you what to eat. That is like infringing on your boundaries, right? It's like eyes on your own plate. I love that phrase, eyes on your own plate. We have to manage our own health in the way that feels great to us. But that's where it's like, yes, like having somebody guide you towards health that understands health on a deeper level and can help you get out of the weeds and see health from a grander perspective, I think is so valuable. And I think where there's a parallel with Ayurveda and intuitive eating here as well is this disordered eating component, right? So if for an individual who is maybe underweight or severely underweight, we suppose that there's maybe a damaged relationship with food there. Like, why are we choosing the raw salads? Is this something that we've learned, like the article that maybe you've mentioned, or like, is there some fear of food? Do we need to unpack, like, what is our relationship with maybe other foods, getting a variety in the diet? And when we unpack those things and heal our relationship with food and allow ourselves permission to eat any and all foods, that's where we can finally really rely on our intuition. But what I'm hearing from you is like, don't trust your feelings, trust your intuition as the voice of the soul. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, you got it. And that is a deep, deep introspective process that does like, okay, here's an example. If you're running around town doing a bunch of errands, and just life. It's just life, you got to pick up your kids, you got to talk to your spouse, you got to do all that stuff. And you're driving by and you start to realize, oh, maybe I should eat something. Because when you're that busy, you're probably not even experiencing real hunger. You just
Mm,
think you need to eat something.
mm,
And you see a raw salad place, or I don't want to harp on the salad thing. You see a burger joint, right? And your intuition, in big quotations, says, oh, yes, I know I need protein right now. So that's fine. I'm going to go get a burger. When you're running around like that and you're in what's called your sympathetic nervous system, you're highly activated, you do not have access to your intuition. So right there, you can stop and say, no, maybe you eat the hamburger, maybe you don't. There's no judgment on that,
mhm,
but don't call that your intuition.
mm.
That's a feeling. That's a craving. That's a convenience. And that's fine, but let's call it what it is.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, I think that it's really important we get down into a parasympathetic state where we can
Yeah.
feel really grounded, where we can feel open, where we can connect our mind with our body. And I know that you mentioned like our mind, body, and soul, they're connected as one. But in my experience, like when I'm running around and I'm kind of anxious and I've got 50 million things to do, I feel quite disconnected from my body. I feel like
Yes.
not able to sense body sensation. I'm not able to detect hunger and fullness in the same way. Like I'm kind of in this like fight or flighty mode. And when I
Yes.
take a second to connect with my breath, to connect with my body, that true hunger can arise and I can really determine what is it that really sounds good for me to eat right now. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, you are going to be you are going to make different choices exactly like you described. In the
Absolutely.
parasympathetic state, which is the one you described as being relaxed and calm, the
Hmm.
choices you make around food will be completely different than the ones you make in a sympathetic state. And it is a huge art form in and of itself to practice getting into your parasympathetic nervous system before you eat. And that is something that obviously you do and I do as well. If someone's dealing with food related issues, it's one of the first places I go. We're going to learn how to do a breathing technique because this is not something you're going to solve in a day. And you can't just call someone up and, oh, yeah, try this diet. It's not going to work.
Hmm.
You need someone to guide you. And I know people are listening like, well, that's convenient. You're selling yourself. And it's like, yes, and of course I want to be someone who helps you, but this isn't something that's popped up out of the blue. This has been a tradition that's been going on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. This is not a fad. That's the difference. And
Hmm.
you deserve someone struggling with food issues
Yeah.
deserves to sit down and be listened to
Yes.
and talk to, not go to a doctor's office, say, well, you need to lose weight. So here's a pill if you want, and, eat skinless chicken and eat 900 calories a day and you'll start losing weight. How unsupportive, how closed, and how ineffective.
And demeaning, we
Yeah.
feel so lost in that. And you are just, you're speaking my language at every turn. And some people think, oh, intuitive eating, I've just heard of this. This is another fad. And I think that's also why people are sometimes distrusting.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this will just come and go. And it's like, oh, intuitive eating is not going anywhere. Mindful eating is not going anywhere. Bringing
Not
ourselves from
anymore.
autopilot to consciousness and our food experience, not going anywhere, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
having
And
someone help us is really essential in that way to help us navigate that.
to help with the intention of putting you in touch with your intuition, the real intuition, so that you can then engage self-guidance.
Mm,
I think that's the beauty
yes.
of it. It's like teach a man to fish versus fish for the man or woman. It's like, no, 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 no. I want you to get in touch with your intuition because that's when you're finally going to unravel this ball of yarn, is when you get in touch with that. And it's there and it's waiting. You just need a little help getting there.
Do you
Who
find with
doesn't? Who doesn't, right? Who
ex-
doesn't?
totally.
Yeah.
So many of us so often live in a very disembodied state, kind of finding that intuition and reconnecting with ourselves. Like when you're working with your clients and you find that they do like connect with themselves in that way and they are able to like lean into their intuition and trust in it, and it's what you call like the quote unquote real intuition, not just like the misguidance of feelings but actually the deeper part of the intuition. How does that affect their life, like even beyond their health? Is there anything else in their life that kind of shifts and changes when they really learn to trust in themselves in this way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first thing you see is that clarity that comes, that unique kind of clarity that comes when someone's has a moment of awakening. And anyone who's fortunate enough to witness one of those is blessed. I don't know of a better word to say, right? It's like it's a really rare opportunity to actually see that happening. So that's extremely gratifying
Absolutely.
for the person watching. But then the person experiencing it, there's an immediate confidence boost.
Yeah.
There's immediate trust in something beyond themselves. And I don't want to say God. I'm not trying to talk about an external white bearded person up on a cloud somewhere. Just this general sense of trust and this simultaneously like deep resonance with what's true within them.
Mm.
And, yes, that has extremely beneficial health ramifications, but that then ripples out into other aspects of their life. And they engage in the same thing that required discipline before, now brings a sense of deep tranquility. So it's this beautiful transition, and it's the payoff of hard work.
My body had an immediate reaction to when you said deep tranquility. It was almost just like I let go of this pile of rocks that I've been holding on to for some time. It's like this immediate relief that's so beautiful. And I think that's what we're all looking for, right? The clarity, the calm, the deep sense of knowing and trust. Like when I talk about intuitive eating, I know that I talk a lot about food, but also this goes so much way beyond food. And it seems the same in your practice too, when you're talking about your approach to health that kind of melds in, meshes in with your food philosophy. I'm so on fire for you and your work, by the way. Like, it's been a pleasure to just learn about you and your work. And I'm curious if you have any words of encouragement for somebody who's living a very chaotic, unbalanced life right now, probably more in that kind of sympathetic state a lot of the time. I know for me personally, and many of the viewers listening, it's just like this podcast today, like they're listening, this is their time. This is their time, maybe away from their job or in their commute. This is them doing their self-care is listening. I'm so grateful for that. But is there any way that they can find more balance in their life, or any recommendations that you have to kind of dig deeper into discovering their intuition and deeper health?
The first thing I'd say is take a deep breath. That's
Mm.
always the first step. Take a deep breath and find a moment. There's always a moment, always, no matter how busy you are. And decide that, okay, it's time to start. It's going to be a walk, but it's time to start the walk. And I'm just gonna shove all the marketing away. I'm gonna shove the commercial that's coming on telling me I need to look this way, or I can lose 50 pounds in 50 days. Inside that's all a lie, and that's a shortcut. You do. Everyone does inside. They already know it. And push away the person who is cruel to you, that is judging you because you're having a health problem, and find someone who is going to support you and help you in your unique way walk the walk you need to walk, and that they're gonna be there for you. They're gonna give you good sound advice. And when you hit a bump in the road, they're not just gonna say shrug their shoulders and say, oh well, sorry, next person. And find that person, and that's your intuition will speak with you and say, that person, I need to talk to that person. That's the
Mhm.
person who's going to help me. And then that person's going to guide you to self-reliance.
People need people to heal, don't they?
Yes, there's no other way.
It's so important. Thank you so much for those words of encouragement. I think that we all do know the truth, but how can we get away from those messages and take the walk ourselves? Victor, everyone listening is like wanting more. Where can they find you? Where can they get more of you? How can they potentially work with you?
So I have an Ayurvedic clinic in Northern California. It's called, the long name is International Institute of Tantric and Vedic Sciences, but for short, it's ITVIS. And ITVIS has an Ayurveda clinic. It's also called Pacific Coast Ayurveda. We're in transition with the names. So Pacific Coast Ayurveda, which is pcayurveda.com, or IITVS school.org. Either way, it can get you to me. And we also have an Ayurveda school, and we do a lot of workshops, like coming up on the end of February. And I don't know when this will exactly air, but in the end of February is a woman's health workshop that my wife is actually putting on. And we're always doing stuff like that. So you can reach me. All my contact information, phone number, email is on those websites. I'm completely available, and I'm happy to talk to anyone who comes my way.
That's so wonderful. And I will link all of those links. If you didn't have a minute to jot any of that down, I'll link everything in the show notes so you can just click on it right on your phone or tablet computer and get in touch with Victor. And I just personally want to thank you so much for all of your sharing. And we hope to have you back on the show soon to talk more about Ayurveda, the doshas, and really about our intuition and how to connect with our intuition. So appreciate that. And so thank you for your time, your wisdom, and knowledge and sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure, and you're a fantastic interviewer.
Oh, thank you. I just love this stuff. I gobble it right. I learned so much. So thank you. Thank you. And for everybody listening, thank you for listening. Don't forget, if you gleaned anything from this episode, screenshot and share it. Share it with your friends, your family, anybody who could benefit from learning this message. And while you have your phone out, hit that subscribe button. Yes, when you subscribe, you'll never miss out on a show. We launch every Monday and Wednesday, or not Wednesday, Monday and Thursday here at the kitchen table. And I look forward to seeing you all on next Monday's episode. Have a great day.